Good afternoon, Michael Malice here. Let that be your welcome for the next hour, guys. You're in for a real treat. A dear friend of mine, Stephen Fishbach, two-time Survivor contestant. You've been working on this novel, Escape, for years.
Too many years, yeah.
And I am ecstatic to announce that it is out. I have read it. I am very proud of you. I can recommend it. We're going to be talking about reality TV and the reality behind reality TV because I have a lot of questions. Through you, I've known a lot of people in that Survivor space. One of the things I really liked about the beginning of this book is you talk about this whole reality TV ecosystem. I remember it's at a party, and I think it was through you, and there was a guy from Big Brother, and it was that season where Evil Dick was on.
Yeah.
And I don't remember his name, but he was the contestant who the audience was forcing him to do stunts.
Oh, sure. Eric Stein, America's Player. Yeah,
Eric.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I felt bad for him because I thought he was like a loser. And I went up to talk to him because I felt, and he was like really obnoxious to me. And like, oh, you think I'm a fan? You think I actually cared to talk to you? And it's very weird because in those rooms, people are super famous and important. And I can relate to that as a podcaster, but on the street, like no one cares. It's this bizarre dichotomy. Can you talk about this ecosystem?
Well, first of all, I should defend Eric Stein, who actually is like a lovely human being. And so like, no, maybe not at that one point in time, but I don't know. He's like a very charming guy. No, but it is true that you know.
What is your basis for saying he's charming?
He's a good friend. Like my experience with him is
that doesn't mean he's charming. That means you like him.
He's charmed me. You know, I charmed me to the point that I'm his friend.
Okay.
But you know, you do go into these. There's this whole, like you say, reality television ecosystem where, you know, you're on the show for 6 months. Suddenly, people are treating you differently, right? Like literally just because you're on television. Like there's like, you know, you're on Survivor. It's not because of any skill you have. You know, you're not like on Project Runway where you're designing a dress or Top Chef where you're making food. You're like literally just like outside and like pooping outdoors.
Hopefully pooping.
Yeah, right. Well, that's right. It's, you know, not everybody. But suddenly people do start treating you differently. You know, your friends do, the people around you do, like literally simply because of that fact. And it's very beguiling. And you start to feel, wow, like this fame thing is really interesting. Like, oh, I like the way this feels. I mean, before I went on Survivor, was zero interested in being on TV. I was like, this is like, I'd love to play this fascinating game. Like, I want this, you know, intense experience of the wilderness. I didn't care about being on television. But once I was on television, I was like, wow, this is awesome. I love it.
And for people who don't know, you got all the way to the finals the first time you were on Survivor. And on Survivor, people don't watch it. You have to vote people off.
Yeah.
At the end, the people you vote off are the jury who vote for you. And how many people voted for you in the finale?
It's hard to remember, Michael. Who can say?
Was it zero?
It was zero. Zero people voted for me to be the winner.
Very charming, Stephen.
Yeah. I was the first contestant in the show's history in a final 2 to receive 0 votes.
Is that true?
Yeah. Other contestants had received 0 votes in like a final 3, but I was the first one ever in a final 2, which is when there's only 2 people there at the end to get no votes.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, okay, it's beautiful. Wow. I think I still hold that title. I think that's sort of on,
is that like how many seasons later? Like 20 or 30?
But they don't do a lot of final 2s anymore, to be fair.
True? Okay.
But yeah, we're coming into season 50 of Survivor.
Holy
and I'm
crap.
Still one of the biggest losers.
Okay, yeah. Okay, so you were saying, please.
But so then, you know, then it's so compelling, and then of course it stops, right? Like the show's over and that attention dilutes, and even like you can like see like even your friends who are like inviting you to more events or treating you differently start like, why did I invite him to this event? You know, you can see it, you can like feel it fade away. And then you get to go to these charity events, these reality TV charity events, or like these bar nights, and suddenly, you know, the fans come in and they're making you like, wow, like they remember this crazy thing I did, you know, and they're excited for you. They're excited to meet you. They want your signature. And even more than the fans themselves, I think it's like the other contestants all feeding off of each other, where, you know, everybody is there from past seasons. You're all high-fiving each other. You're like, oh my God, remember when you did this amazing thing? Like, remember when you did this amazing thing? And like everyone's got their story about how they really should have won their season of the show. And it's just like this like toxic little bubble where you get to feel famous. And it's almost like, it really is almost like a drug that you should probably have quit a long time ago, but you keep on getting these like little hits of it and you can't quit. You can never fully withdraw.
Yeah, it's Survivor. Watching that show had 2 major epiphanies for me in my life. And the first one, season 1 was when?
Season 1, 2000?
It,
2001. This is the kind
no,
of thing
it
I
was
should
2000
know.
because 2001 was Big Brother, right?
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
9/11 happened during season 2 of Big Brother.
That's right,
So it
yeah.
must have been 2000 or 99, something like that. It was one of the most important moments of my life in terms of understanding people work with Survivor, because it was the second to last episode. I've talked about this before. It's just, you have those light bulb moments and it's just affects you for life. It was the second to last episode, right? So this is going to be a final four. It's Sue Hawk, Kelly, Rudy's. Did he pass away?
Oh God, this is yes. Rudy passed away.
Okay.
Yes,
He was the best.
I just yeah.
And Richard Hatch, who was superb.
Yeah.
So the question is, who's going to win? There's 4 options. And next week, and there's a clip where Kelly or Sue says to the other one, "We got to take out Richard."
Yeah.
And I went to a Survivor message board because that's how much of a fan I was. Survivor sucks.
Yeah.
And people were speculating who's going to be the finalist, who's going to win. And one says, "Oh, did you hear what Kelly said? I think they're going to vote out Richard." And I go, "We all heard it. It wasn't a window. You're not looking, you're laughing, but this was a very telling comment because it made me realize the average human can't distinguish between what is on their screen is what. And not only was it something we all heard, that was left in by choice. Some editor took that soundbite for whatever reason, maybe to manipulate you, maybe thought it was interesting. But the other thing that leads into is a lot of people who watch these shows think they know you. And there's people you and I are friends with who are like villains on this show, and people feel comfortable messing with them in real life to get that villain response. And it's like, that to me is very scary because this is a real person under bizarre circumstances. So they're obviously not at their best. And you feel comfortable trying to get them to like lose their shit. Like I can see the humor on paper, but I don't think they appreciate the derangement of what they're actually doing.
Yes, I do. And I felt it, like when I'm watching a show and I see someone, doing terrible behavior, even knowing that it's a show, even knowing that they can, that they are starving. I mean, I watched The Challenge, another reality show, I'm a huge obsessive with that show. And, I see someone doing something jerky and I want to like take to X and like tell them off. And then, I can stop myself because I realize, having been on the other side of that, that's an insane, toxic thing to do. But it really is, I think it is really hard to create that distinction because the whole premise of reality television is this is real people
that's right.
living their real lives. Like, and the parasocial relationship extends even to scripted content. There have been studies that show that people who watch Friends think they have more friends. That's right. So like, then you add that sort of reality component to it. And of course, people think that they know you in this authentic way. And to some degree they do, right? Like it is like an aspect of you. And I think now what's really interesting has been watching the evolution of contestants on the show where people now like know that going in.
That's right.
Even when I was on, like I had a moment, I remember this moment, like right in the last few days when someone from the production staff said, "Oh man, like Coach is going to be such a huge character on this season." I was like, character? Like, what do you mean like character? Suddenly it all hit me that we were all characters on a TV show. Yeah. But I think now people go in knowing they're characters on a TV show and they kind of play it up a little bit. They do memes.
Yeah, there was one thing I saw recently. Your buddy Rob was on the season of the Traitors, my favorite show at the moment, right?
Yeah.
I'm not going to ask you for spoilers, but there was, I think it was Traitors Ireland, and this is when a lot of your book is about reality going too far, and I think we crossed that line, and here's why. So on the Traitors, people don't know, you have like 20 contestants, 4 of them are traitors, the rest are faithful. You don't know who the traitors are. So at night, under the cover of darkness, the traitors are killing people off. And then you have this, what they call a round table, and you have to try to suss out who they are. And it's almost impossible because the traitors are part of the conversation and they're leading the conversation. And it's very, very tricky because they're only doing bad things like for 1 hour a night. The other times they're competing with you. They want to win the contest. And there was an episode where it was a mom, she was like in 40s or 50s, and she got voted out. And she was innocent, but like she said something, they misinterpreted it. And I just sat there and I'm like, this perfectly nice woman is now being surrounded by people she's living with who are all her genuine friends. Like outside the game, they like her. And now they're pointing at her in her face, calling her a liar, saying you're a traitor. It's like Shirley Jackson's short story, The Lottery. She's in tears. And she's like, I'm not a traitor, I'm a faithful, because at the end of the reveal, they all feel bad. And I'm like, this is a traumatic moment. I want anyone like, I know you, it's on TV. Imagine you're at like Thanksgiving dinner and your whole family or just even your friend group denounces you as a liar when you know with 100% certainly you're telling the truth. This is like some kind of like Clockwork Orange or gaslighting. And I'm like, we're encouraging this. And no one seems to have a problem with it. I was very disturbed by it.
You, I think, really nail it with that comparison to the lottery. I mean, I noticed even on Survivor, even not just these, when you're being voted out, there's always this narrative around the person who's being voted out that they're the bad one. We would just be playing this like wonderful, honorable, great game, but this person is over there causing chaos. This person is playing too hard. If we like purge them from this group, like then we'll be able to have like a noble, great game like we should be. And then of course, like there is this sort of like ritual. I mean, and it's very deliberately staged as a ritual, right? Tribal
That's
council
right, yeah.
and Survivor with like they snuff a torch and like in this game, fire represents your life. And then you have to like walk out into the darkness and everyone's telling you, yes, like we don't want you here and you are the problem here. And then you're sort of like cast out. And I think you're right that the Traitors is much more, is even worse in a way because it's right to people's faces. People are saying you're betraying us. And it's interesting, like, even though it's obviously within this metaphor of, nobody's really getting killed,
right.
Nobody's really being betrayed. You're right that like that metaphor, like it takes on this real potency when you're living it. I mean, you can see how intense the emotions get. And I think you're right. Like you feel very attacked. In my first season of Survivor, when I was at that final tribal council, where you remind me that I got 0 votes, people are saying you're a bad person. Like you don't deserve, to be here. Like, the person, like they were saying to my friend next to me, like I don't like you because you aligned with this rat, Steven, and it's rattling, especially because the intense conditions of being on reality television.
But even in that case, you knew where they were coming from because you voted them out. So you did have a hand in them losing. In this show, that person is 100% innocent. She did nothing, literally nothing wrong. And she's being spoken to like she's a murderer.
Yeah.
By people who were nice to her 5 minutes ago. You didn't see the people you voted out for days.
Yeah.
And then they come back, they're pissed. Okay, it's coming. This wasn't the first season. But on that show, it's just like 5 minutes ago, we were having drinks in the bar. And now you're berating me and saying things that are with perfect certainty that I'm a horrible person. I can't get over it. Yeah. It really screwed me up.
Well, what's interesting too is like, you just sort of have to compartmentalize this. And I've talked to a lot of reality contestants who like, they don't even realize that like the trauma that they're having simply because it's within the context of a reality show, right? It's this like frivolous cultural product. And you think to yourself, well, I'm on a reality show. It can't be that serious. So even though you are undergoing these sort of traumatic experiences, because that it's just part of this game and I was playing it and it was like on Peacock, you don't think like, oh, wow, like I was really deeply affected as a person. Like you don't even know how deeply affected you are. And I think that's true for a lot of contestants.
Let's talk about one more thing about Survivor, which I thought really just speaks to politics in general. So there's what you're told and I'm a Russian. So part of the Russian mindset is the rules are there to be exploited, not to be followed, right? It makes if people tell you A, B, and C, okay, I don't care what this is meant for. And a good example of this was season 1 of Survivor, because Richard Hatch thought like that. So season 1 of Survivor, you had 2 tribes. Then when it's down to 10 people, they merged as 1 tribe. And they didn't give you instructions for who to vote for. You're all 1 tribe. And Richard Hatch realized we're not all 1 tribe. We were competing against them yesterday. If we work together, we have the numbers, we can just pick them off. And he's like, but the other tribe was like, oh, well, we were told to 1 tribe, so we're just going to follow what the authorities tell us. And that was Hatch's tactic to win. I don't think Mark Burnett saw that coming, that this would be the strategy. It was kind of like an experiment. I remember reading about it as this kind of Treasure Island situation. But I think I think a lot of these games are really fun because you see my favorite reality show season of all time is Heroes versus Villains of Survivor, because that was the example of the informed villain versus the naive so-called hero. But those heroes are just bad villains. That's the other thing. You can't be a hero on Survivor, really. You have to be stabbing people in the back and doing conniving things. And I don't want to spoil anything, but watch all the seasons of Survivor, then watch that, because it's just a masterpiece. So I'm just curious to hear your thoughts about, how it just affects you as a person. Does it make you more conniving in general?
I remember the first time I had to lie. It's not natural to lie to someone's face. I mean, maybe for some people it is, but like I think for probably most people it's not. And what's I think unique about Survivor among other reality shows is that you literally are relying on each other for body heat and for food. You're going, fishing together. You're like cuddling in the shelter at night. You're like freezing. And then you are literally lying to that person and you're destroying their dreams. Like, what their dreams are. They are telling you like, this money, this $1 million is going to get my dad out of debt. And you're like, oh, sorry for you, and then you're just like sending them off on their way.
I'm laughing.
Yeah, no, but I mean,
do you know the quote I'm laughing at?
Which one?
Come on, what's the quote?
Wait, I don't know.
This is Survivor, not welfare. It's not my fault she sucks at life.
Oh, well, listen, that's like from a great contestant, Courtney Yates. Yes. Yeah. But I mean, that's sort of
as
like
she voted out the lunch lady.
Yeah.
Who then voted for her in the finals.
I know. Well, listen, I mean, you've got the lore. But it really does and honestly, when I came back from that show, I found myself being like more deceitful, like not like in a nefarious way, but just like always like, even in the workplace, thinking like, who are my allies here? It just became this kind of like default.
You felt like a Russian. I'm not kidding. That's the Russian mindset. That's the Russian mindset.
That's wild. I mean, it really,
it's not healthy.
Yeah, it's not. And I had to really deprogram myself from that to like a more healthy, I don't know, communitarian mindset. I guess.
Until like 10 years ago, you're going to laugh. I'm not joking at all. My entire brain was, when I was talking to someone, I would run a scan and ask myself, if this person turns on me, is it okay for me to tell them what I'm about to tell them about everything? That was my default mindset.
Wow.
And I had to purge myself of that. Sometimes it backfired and it should have been there, but it's really I don't even know how that came into my head. I didn't grow up there. It's not like my parents sat me down and like, careful, the KGB is going to come to the door, but it was ingrained in me.
That's so wild. I mean, that idea of like generational trauma, like there is something to it. It sounds like mystical, but I really believe there's something to it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's no joke. As a literal supervillain, I love a good origin story, and I love Brooklyn. Brooklyn Betting has one of my favorite origin stories and names. The founder, John, he built the company from the ground up in Arizona without a college degree, just pure grit and intentional craftsmanship. You can actually feel that pride in every stitch of their mattresses. I just got a new one, and I am going to be sleeping on it, and I'm very excited about it. So Brooklyn Betting is keeping me happy and healthy while I have my nightmares. And we don't want to get into those because they're scary to even think about. But here's what's great about Brooklyn Betting. They handcraft every mattress in their factory, and they know sleep isn't one size fits all. They have different mattresses for every body type, every sleep style, even in hard to find sizes. If you don't know which mattress is right for you, just take their Brooklyn Betting sleep quiz. You'll find your perfect match in under 2 minutes. And Brooklyn Betting has a 120-night comfort trial. You love it, or they'll help you return or swap it hassle-free. You don't have to believe me. Brooklyn Betting has been awarded the best mattress by CNET and best hybrid mattress by Wirecutter, so you know it's the real deal. Here's what you got to do. Go to brooklynbetting.com, use promo code Malice at checkout, get 30% off site-wide. This offer not available anywhere else. That's brooklynbetting.com, promo code Malice, 30% off. Support our show. Let them know I sent you. It'll be like you're sleeping with me on the same mattress in different houses, and we will never speak. But, sleeping together. brooklynbetting.com, promo code Malice. Folks, if you love epic stories of myth and legend, listen up. Before Camelot, before the Crown, the Pendragon cycle, Rise of the Merlin, tells the origin story of the legend that shaped Britain in a 7-episode cinematic epic, years in the making. This is not a retelling of the King Arthur story. It's the rise of the world that made Arthur possible. The Pendragon cycle, Rise of the Merlin, is available now on Daily Wire Plus. Shot across multiple international locations, this series brings myth to life with serious production value, full-scale battles, and a sweeping original orchestral score. At its core, this is a return to classic epic storytelling where faith, prophecy, and sacrifice truly matter. Stream the Pendragon cycle, Rise of the Merlin, only on Daily Wire Plus. Let's get back to the show. I have a question for you about the Traitors.
Yeah.
Because I've watched 20 seasons of that show now. I've watched all the international ones. No one has figured out something I figured out about this show. Okay. And this is why I brought the Survivor question. The show, so again, there's 3 or 4, there's usually 3 traitors, right? You have to vote them off. And then at the end, if there's one traitor left, they get all the money. The thing is, so that's the cover story. You can't vote out all the traitors because even if it gets to one traitor, that traitor in the rules blackmail someone, so now there's true traitors. So literally you can never win as a faithful. So the smart move would be figure out who that one traitor is, quarantine them, then vote them out at the earliest opportunity, which I think is at 5, and then you win. But if I know you, Steven, are a traitor, and I've got the numbers, if I vote you, somebody else is going to, and I'm not going to know who that other person is. But at the same time, if I sat down and explained this to most contestants, their eyes would glaze over and they'd say, but we have to vote out the traitors.
Yeah, exactly. Because you're being told vote out the traitors. That's the whole metaphor of the game, is like, you got to eliminate the traitors. But yes, like if you vote out a traitor, then you actually are making your position in the game worse,
right?
Because another traitor is going to join, and now you don't have the information that you needed, you know, in order to like actually win the game at the end. So actually, I do think that Sandra, who was on Survivor Heroes versus Villains, your favorite season, and then was on the Traitors, I think she had that strategy.
Oh, did she?
Played her season of Traitors, where she wanted to make an alliance that included known traitors, you know, because it's like, that's ultimately the correct strategy. Like, the faithful should protect the traitors they know, and the traitors should protect the faithful that they know. And then they should get to the end and then kind of like basically duke it out there. But I mean, I think the optimal strategy is an intertraitorial alliance.
Right.
But you're told to traitor hunt, and you kind of have to, because that's the structure of the game.
I think it was the last UK one, the last American one. One of the guys figured it out, and he's like, "Why are we voting out this traitor? We know they're a traitor." And the other contestants were like, "What are you talking?" It was like a what do you call it? Invasion of the Body Snatchers. What are you talking about? We have to vote out the traitor. But he's like, "But why? We know who they are. It's like playing Minecraft, right? What's the mind game on Windows? The very early where you have to pick out the landmines.
Yeah, Minecraft. Oh, no. Minesweeper.
Minesweeper. It's here's the flag. I know this is a bomb. Like, why would you get rid of that bomb and then have it? But their eyes were just, that's another thing. Let's talk about this. On reality TV, some things one of the reasons I know, I bet you if I worked my Rolodex, I could get on The Amazing Race. One of the reasons I know I can never do that show is because a lot of, like that show especially, they'll say, you have to take a cab from this point to this point. And the cab driver is some subnormal, demilingual thing who has no concept of language or urgency, and you're like, I need to get this place. I'm gonna lose $1 million. They're like, and there's just no. And I'm sitting there at home, and I'm like, I would literally kill this person, and I know my American passport would save me.
Yeah. No, that's why I would never do Amazing Race. It's basically like taxi cab roulette. Like, you get into the bad cab, and you're like, then your game is over. If you get into the good cab, and then you win. Like, the stress of that and like the randomness of that is so contrary to how I like to think about these games.
But talk about the stress of, it's not just the cab drives. In most of these games, you have to rely on dumb people, and you have to work them. And it's really easy. I think you and I think strategically, it would be really easy for us to sit down and powwow. But if we have to bring in someone else into our group who does not think in these terms, not just maybe you, but other contestants, who's that one? Colton, was that his name? The nerdy guy.
On which season?
The Survivor. He was on twice. He's like Cothran, and he had to bring that crazy lady with him to the end. And his entire thing was like, I have to do emotion management for this. Dawn was her name. I think.
Dawn, yeah,
who was like losing her mind on a daily basis.
But she also played a very good strategic game, Dawn. I feel like her game was underrated. But like, yes, like so much of being out there is like emotional. You know, the contestants are cast because they're emotionally volatile, not because they're great strategic thinkers. Although now actually that's somewhat changed, where they are casting a lot more like strategic. Okay. Like, there's a lot more fans now, in some ways to the detriment of the show.
Yeah.
Because, you know, people are too smart, and like it becomes like just sort of a bunch of game bots is the current critique of the show. You know, the critique used to be like, why are there not more game bots? Why do not more people know the game? But yes, like that's one of the challenges, and certainly something I wanted to get into in the book was like, you know, you are dealing with these contestants who are highly erratic and who are chosen because they're erratic. Like, you're not dealing with rational actors all the time. And like, that's one of the hardest challenges of being on these shows, is like, you're literally working with people who are chosen because they're over the top characters, not necessarily because they're like self-interested game players, which is who you would ideally like to be playing a game with.
And then isolated from their support group, no food, no sleep. Like, it's going to make anyone a lunatic.
Yeah.
One of the things you talk about that's very fun in this novel, Escape, is, and I think this is something that anyone who watches reality TV has increasingly or exponentially increasingly been aware, that one of the contestants is the production department. You and I and other people have talked about this, how production was a thing in Survivor. Like, oh, people just finding hidden immunity idols, just happen to be there. Drag Race is notorious for this. Is another show I watch. And I know people who are on the Food Network are like, these shows are all fake. The judges have an earpiece. They're told who to like, who not to like. Has this become, and tell me about how that inspired you in crafting this book.
Yeah. I mean, I will say, I think Survivor is actually like is on the up and up. Like, I think that they have standards and practices that are right.
Well,
there.
hold on. They're not on the up in this regard, in that I think and it's something they wouldn't dispute. You have an hour and you have to craft a narrative. And a lot of times the character you see on TV is going to be a shadow of the real person. So in that regard, I don't think they even have a choice though.
Yeah.
You have 16 people, 20 people. How are you going to make that person flesh that character? It's impossible.
Well, that's definitely something that I get into. I mean, like that's I think like the core of the interesting thing about this book for me is this idea that like you go in, you're like a rich 3-dimensional human being, and then you're inherently being sort of reduced and like turned into a cartoon. And I think there are, certain shows are like much more manipulative in that capacity. Like, you get asked really leading questions that sort of prompt you not just even what to do, but also how to think. And then what I think is really interesting is how you are asked a question, you give a response, because that's the response that's being prompted, and it actually affects how you think and how you act, and then how you think about yourself. It's like don't you want to vote out Michael? Isn't he a jerk? Like, no, I really like Michael. He's a great guy. Like,
but yeah.
And then you're like, yeah, but like I guess Michael is sort of jerky in these ways. And then you leave that and you're like, you know what, Michael is kind of a jerk. And then I start to like see your jerky components, and suddenly in my mind you're a jerk, and like I'm whatever the opposite of a jerk is. Like it really like affects just like your fundamental thought processes in this like really fascinating way that I think is it's really was what I wanted to explore in the novel.
That's funny you said that, because I hadn't thought until now. When I was in high school, I went with my friend Eric to the comic book store, and Eric had a very big book bag, and the guy working the comic store was like probably 20, and he's like, oh, who's he? Because I went there every week, and I go, oh, he's from my school, he's mentally handicapped. And now Eric is looking at the comic books, and once you put that out there, he's like, haha, very funny. Right. But then it's in his head, it's like, are you kidding or not?
Right.
Especially when you're completely socially isolated, when someone puts a seed in your head, it's going to ruminate.
Yeah.
Because you can't turn on TV, you can't turn on a podcast, can't read a book. Your entire identity is this game, and you know that the people are trying to play against you.
Yeah.
So you're going to become a crazy person.
Well, and you become like so paranoid. I mean, they literally are, like you're saying, they're literally against you. Everyone is literally against you. And that's why it makes their producer so beguiling, is it's this one person there.
They understand me.
Yeah, right. They're smiling at you. They're like, oh, tell me your story. Oh, I saw that you didn't, you had one less spoonful of rice at lunch. Like, wow, how noble of you. And you're like, yeah, I really am noble. Like they gas you. Yeah, really. They gas you up. And then you're like, they become your best friend, the one person you can trust out there. And so of course you're more inclined to take, to want to spend time with them, to like believe the things that they're saying, to be, to be influenced by the things that they're saying. What's also interesting is that it kind of goes both ways, where I think the producers sort of like imprint. Is this the phraseology? Like they imprint on the contestants, or like that? Like they also start to really identify.
Get imprinted from. Yeah,
they get imprinted. Yeah, they start to identify with the contestants a lot. Because like in the same way that a writer or a novelist has like a main character, like they identify with certain contestants and certain characters, and then like that becomes their sort of avatar within this game that's being played. And I interviewed a lot of producers for this book, and one thing that I saw that was really interesting to me, and I don't know if this is true for Survivor, but like for the other games that I spoke to, like they will sit down and have a story meeting every day.
Yeah.
And there will be different producers, and they will literally like argue over like which storylines are the good storylines, or the ones to track, or the ones that they should push forward. And so they are kind of like each storyteller is coming like with their favorite contestants and their favorite storylines, and they're kind of like battling it out to like control the overall storyline. And I just thought that was so fascinating. And it's like other like aspect of reality TV you don't see, where it is like literally like dueling narratives for like what is meant to happen out there in the jungle.
Am I correct that there's an increasing understanding in the fandom that how much production plays the finger on the scale in these different games? And how does production react to that?
Yeah. I mean, I think sometimes it becomes like, I think sometimes now with the fandom, it almost is too much. Like you think people are seeing things that aren't always there.
Yeah.
Like,
everything's a conspiracy.
Well, right. Exactly. Everything's a conspiracy. And so like, anything that happens, they're like, well, that must have been a production thing. Or like, I remember when Tyson, speaking of Heroes vs. Villains, can can I spoil a TV
Yes,
show that was
yes.
on 15 years ago? Accidentally like they say voted himself out, but he made a bad vote and that got him eliminated. People, there were all these conspiracies about how like production paid him off because they wanted like, they wanted like this other character to move forward instead of him. And so that was like, I saw that narrative everywhere at the time.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I do think there's like a tendency to see too much of it.
And also, just because someone's on TV doesn't mean they're smart. Tyson is smart. But also, you have more information than they do. Like they're in Plato's cave. Of course, sometimes you're going to swing for the fences. Babe Ruth didn't have a 1.0 batting average. He struck out plenty of times.
Yeah. No, I mean, my second time I played Survivor, like I made two big blunders, in the game. One of which ultimately cost me the game. The first time I we split the votes when we shouldn't have split the votes, and the second time we didn't split the votes when we should have split the votes, or whatever. Yeah. And like literally, like both times, the fandom was like, "That's so stupid! Of course you don't split the votes there." And the other time, like, "That's so stupid! Of course you split the vote." It's easy to know when you see what's happening, but of course when you're out there, you're running through every single scenario, and the one that you get wrong is the one that you're eliminated on.
I remember I was on Cash Cab, and I'm really good at trivia, and there was a very obvious question. The answer was a space station mirror. And my brain was just not producing the information. And it's like, you don't know what people say it's easier at home. It's like, try to take the SATs when you're having a panic attack.
Yeah, exactly.
Like when your adrenaline is high and you're in fight or flight, you're not in a position to think through like Russian space stations.
Yeah.
And it's because when you're calm, the information is there. But when I think I was at 2 strikes at that point, and that was my second strike. Oh. I'm like, if I lose Cash Cabs, talk about spoiling something from 20 years ago, like I will never hear the end of this. So I didn't lose, of course, but and that's what, like half an hour. So you're living in these people living in these situations. It's really easy to sit at home on your couch and judge. And also, you don't know, they're also not showing the literal hours of you going through every scenario in your head.
Yeah. I mean, and of course you're not sleeping well, you're getting rained on, you're not eating very much, you're malnourished, your like brain is literally shutting down. I remember in my second season in Cambodia, there was one time where Jeff was asking me questions and I literally could not form words. I hadn't eaten or slept in 3 days and I was just like making like weird grunting sound.
Folks, as some of you know, I take shaving as a hobby. I went through like a couple of hundred, I'm not exaggerating, shaving soaps over the last 10 years. If you go to Instagram.com/shaving soaps, those are all my reviews. And the razor I use to shave every day is Harry's. Here's what's cool about Harry's. You get anywhere. It's a great product for a great price. Why are you paying $30 for refills when Harry's gives you better blades for a fraction of that? And they've launched their new line, which is Harry's Plus. It's got an advanced pivoting system to reach every corner of your face. It's got refined blade tech for a closer, smoother shave, and a weighted metal handle, Harry's heaviest handle ever, for added control and comfort. If you don't love your shave, Harry's will make it right, no questions asked. Risk-free trial means there's zero downside to giving it a shot. Here's what else. Harry's doesn't just make razors. They've got a full line of grooming essentials, from shave gel to deodorant to body wash, all thoughtfully made and priced to stock up. And all of Harry's blades and products can be delivered right to your door. Set your preferred schedule. Never run out of blades again. I've been using them for years. I swear by it. And for a limited time, our listeners get that Harry's Plus trial set for $10. Go to harrys.com/malice. This set includes the all-new Harry's Plus razor, one refined 5-blade cartridge, a 2-ounce foaming shave gel, and a travel cover to protect your blades on the go. Just head to harrys.com/malice to claim this offer. After you purchase, the last where you heard about them, tell them Michael Malice sent me, and they'll say, "You're welcome. Thank you, Harry's, for supporting the program and for keeping me clean-shaven literally every day." Folks, I just landed from New York. I am tired, I am exhausted, and my voice is cracking. But the one part of me that is safe and comfortable is my junk, and that's thanks to Sheath underwear. I wear Sheath underwear every day. Sheath underwear is unique because they're their dual pouch technology. What is this? What are you talking about? Well, I've been talking about it for years and wear it every day, but dual pouch technology means they have 2 pouches in your underwear, one part for one part of your male anatomy and one part for the other part of your male anatomy. Why that's great is if you're in a hot environment, you stay cool, but if you're in a cold environment, it keeps you nice and warm and snug and dry. After you try Sheath, you're not going back to those other disgusting brands which only pathetic losers wear. And their fabric is stretchy. It's got this moisture wicking technology, super soft. Everything's cool, comfortable, and in the right place. You could be an underwear model like me. Just put on sheath underwear. You'll be like, hey, I have Michael Malice's underwear. And I'll be like, I'll see you in court. They've also got stuff made out of bamboo. It's actually quite soft. Mesh for really cooling comfort. Shirts, hoodies. I don't wear hoodies. I specifically said take this out of the script. Go to sheath.com, use promo code Malice, get 20% off today. That's sheath.com, promo code Malice, MALICE for 20% off. Sheath, support the underwear that supports you and supports me literally and the show financially. Everybody wins. That's freedom, you dummy. Let's get back to the show.
So there's something else you and I want to bring this up because something that was very odd to me. Like this about, you talk about this a lot in the book, how contestants want to edit how they look on TV. You cried in your second season, and I thought that was really admirable. I sent you a text. I thought it made me I feel empathy for you and sympathy, and you were like embarrassed. And I don't like. Can you talk? I don't get it because it's like if I see a friend of mine, obviously this is one of the cases. Like, thank God, if someone's family member dies and they're crying, I'm not like ha ha ha, you loser. Right. You're like, oh my God, that's awful. And I think that's how. And I'm not a very nice person. I thought watching you.
Secretly, I think you might be.
But so why were you? Explain that. Why
yeah, it's really interesting. It's a great. Like, why was I like was I ashamed? I mean, first of all, I was getting, dogpiled by the internet. And of course that
were they really?
Oh yeah. What a loser I was. And I mean, so like, it's hard not to over-index on that.
Here, let me defend you a little. Let's take it out of Survivor. If you and 12 strangers or 8 strangers have to live in the jungle with no resources, you're going to have a breakdown. Yeah. Even without a game. Yeah. Like it's not normal. Yeah. And you can't talk to anyone you like and you have no other outlet. Like, how is that not going to break anybody?
Yeah. No, I mean, I think, listen, I agree with you. I agree with you. I was crying, but like, I do think, you I think were maybe ahead of the culture in embracing, crying, but, and I do think it's become more normative now for people to like cry publicly on TV, certainly within reality shows. I mean, certainly within Survivor specifically, like everybody's crying all the time. But they didn't really share it that much back then. And I do think it sort of, played into everything people didn't like about me. There are people who like me, like they like certain things about me, and people who don't like me, they don't like certain, like people, like I'm strategic and I'm like thinking about the game and I love the game, or I'm like a wimpy little non-leader, Yeah. So there's this whenever you sort of have this opportunity to dogpile, I feel like the internet happily like jumps into that and is like more than eager.
Is that still a thing when people are emotional, or is it less?
I don't think so anymore. It's less thing, right? Yeah, I mean, more honestly now it's more about like game stuff.
That's
like
better. That's more fair.
Well, I guess so. But again, like to your point earlier, even the game decisions are all like subpar because of the conditions.
One of the most disturbing things I've ever seen was the first President Bush, George H.W. Bush. He was doing an interview and he cried a little bit because his daughter died when she was like 3 or 5, something it's horrific. And he's like, oh, I'm sorry, I don't want people to think I'm a sissy. I'm like, your kid died. Yeah. Like, I don't even want to say those words. Yeah. And it's just like this poor man who I despise, but I mean, like, I wouldn't wish this on anybody. Right. Like, and that you feel embarrassed, that your heart's breaking thinking about it. I just horrific. I don't know. I'm not someone who's big on crying, but like, what's the context? Yeah. This guy's not crying because he like lost, his shoe. He's crying because he's traumatized and naked in the woods, surrounded by enemies, and doesn't have any resources to support him.
Yeah, I mean, the culture has obviously changed so much. I mean, especially since his era. But and now we're all crying. We're all crying all the time. But maybe it's good. Maybe.
So here's a question you don't want to answer, but I'm going to ask it anyway.
Thank you. Yeah.
So there is an enormous one thing you also talk about in the novel, which I am also very aware of. There's this enormous hierarchy in you have this in the characters within reality TV, right? And there's the people who are like, even within Survivor or Big Brother, is the people everyone wants to meet. Like, who are you again? Oh yeah, blah blah blah. And it's not always the early outs. Some people make it all the end and no one cares anyway. Having written this novel, does this put you at the A-list? And also the podcast, are you like in the A-list of the Survivor people?
Oh, that's interesting. So this is going to elevate. I don't think I'm in the A-list.
Who are the A-list? Richard Hatch?
Harvard. Well, not Hatch anymore. My gosh,
he's not in the A-list.
No, I don't think so because he's had so many troubles.
But if there's a Survivor convention, right? Who's getting the longest lines? Richard Hatch.
Well, also the thing about Richard is like he's kind of been out of the scene for a long time. Okay, he doesn't go.
Okay,
so like
that's fair.
I feel like Parvati is like Parvati Shallow is probably like the very top of the
Okay.
A-list. You know, she's someone who she came out with a memoir. You know, she just was on another like international edition of Survivor that she did very well on.
Oh, did she? Good for her.
Yeah.
Really? That's always surprising to me when you know someone is like a tank. Get rid of them immediately.
It's crazy, but people were this was
Like Tina
wild.
Weston.
Yeah.
She's the first out for a reason.
But people were so starstruck by her. They wanted to keep her around, which is like I know it's wild. Like other contestants were just so delighted to be playing with her. And then of course, I mean, she also was playing with a very good friend of hers in Suri. So like she also
Suri was on. Okay, yeah. Okay.
Suri is also someone. Honestly, I think a lot of it is there's a recency element to it. You know, it's like who have I seen the most recently? Because Parvati is like constantly, you know, on these shows. You know, she too is on Traitors. I think she's always going to be on. It's like who's got the most TV credits now. It really did used to be like almost exclusively your ranking on the show, because like back when I was on, you know, maybe you'd go on twice. You know, most people went on once. Your ranking was there, like etched in stone forever. And then like if you got super lucky, you got to go on the second time, and then like wow, then you were.
How many of these shows has Suri done this? It's got 10, literally.
She's been on. I mean, Survivor. She's been on now 5 times because she's going to be on season 50. So you know, she was on the Traitors. She was on this other show, Snake in the Grass. I mean, she was. You know, she's been on. You know, all these different shows, and now like, you know, becoming this sort of, you know, person that's part of this reality TV ecosystem, like of course, like that elevates you into the stratosphere.
So let's go through the names. It's Parvati, Suri.
Yeah.
It's Boston Rob's got to be up there.
Oh yeah, Boston Rob too now. I mean, Boston Rob I feel like is even bigger now. I mean, he and Parvati are probably like the top 2, I think, in the franchise. I mean, Sandra's up there obviously, but you know, again, we just haven't. She's on Extracted right now. She's also
What's that?
It's like another jungle show. You know,
Wait, how's that one play out?
Oh gosh, I don't. You have a family member out in the jungle surviving, and then like the rest of their family is like in the booth like watching, and I think like the family is then like trying to like get them items or somehow like competing to get them items like so that they can continue to survive, or like trying to pull them out of the game. I actually don't totally know the mechanics, but I mean, speaking of like people becoming more self-aware about the production, you know, edifice, there's like literally a group like that's in the booth, and then like they're like watching their family members suffer.
Right, yeah.
And so of course they're like, you know, come out, like we can't stand this. Like they're that sort of like emotional voyeurism, you know, is really quite intense.
So you host the Survivor podcast. At this point, isn't it just the same shit after 50 seasons? I stopped watching because I'm like, it's this. Because one of the things that drove me crazy about the early seasons is every season was in a different location, and they would have these rewards, and they go to meet the local people, and they have this festival, and I'm like, I want to fast forward, like I don't care what's going on in we're in Africa or Australia, and then now it's like they're all at the same beach, and it's the same people every season, characters basically. It's like I've seen this already. It can only play out so many ways.
It's the same shit, but it's shit I love. It's the same.
It is the same stuff.
Yeah, it's like delicious pizza. You know, like I love it.
Okay, yeah, that's a good metaphor.
You know, and of course, like the metagame does evolve, and like, you know, the production evolves, and there's better seasons and worse seasons. I mean, it's really like any TV show. You know, it's like Law and Order. It's like, you know, there's going to be a case that they're going to, you know, solve every week, but like, you know, can't wait to dig in.
It's not like Law and Order because the case is different in Law and Order. I think that they've given up on this kind of. Is it literally always the same beach at this point?
Now it is always the same beaches. Yes. So that's. I mean, like, I'm curious to see, because they're about to have their 50th season, which is, I think, going to be really exciting because they are changing the format. They're bringing back more players than they've ever brought back before.
Oh, what do you mean?
24 people.
Holy
they've never
crap.
had that many.
Okay.
And so like they're going to have to do like totally different, you know, they're going to have more eliminations than they've ever had. I don't know how they're going to do that. It's going to just be like a much more fast-paced game.
Wait, you don't know, you know.
No, I really don't. I really don't.
Okay.
Yeah,
has it not taken place already?
No, it's taken place.
Oh, so you avoid the spoilers?
Yeah, I try to avoid this.
Okay.
I mean, I podcast about it, so I want to be
smart. Yeah.
But like I literally have no idea how they're going to do like multiple eliminations every episode. And then too, it's like they're bringing back contestants from every era of the show. So there's someone from the first season.
Who's from the first season?
Jenna Lewis.
Oh, she's the one. Was she the one who sued? No. Jenna. Oh, she's the one that had the kid.
She at the time had the, yeah.
And they're like, "What's my kid's name?"
Yeah,
wasn't that her? Yeah.
So,
oh wow. Okay.
Yeah, so they're really going back, back to the wall, and then there's people, of course, from the Heroes versus like, Saria's back there, and Ozzy, who's another.
Okay.
But then there's also people from this last season, who. So I think it will be fun to see the different characters from different eras interact, and then maybe they'll do something new in like the next era of the show. Like to me, as someone who knows this game intimately, and like, has been talking about it for so long, it just gets like, you just like start to see like finer and finer minutiae, and also I think it's like the psychology of it is still really interesting. Like you get to see people at their most raw, at their most vulnerable, you know, and one of the things I talk about in the book too is like, these people are not just out there to play a game or be famous or like have their 15 minutes or like, you know, hit the hierarchy at the reality TV charity events. They're there because they want something authentic and human. And, you know, something I know you talk about a lot is this sort of like desire for meaning, right? That like people have, especially acutely today. And that's, I think, really prevalent now with reality television. Like people go on these shows, especially these wilderness shows, like seeking out meaning. They're looking for some connection to some authentic self or to some like version of humanity that we no longer find in our contemporary society.
Oh, like Thoreau.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, exactly like Thoreau. So like I find that really interesting, where people are going out with very earnest expectations, but also are playing a game, and also are characters and they're memeing, and just like the tension between all of those aspects is, I feel like, a very human tension, and it's like interesting to see like the sort of, you know, crucible of all those things in conflict.
One of the things that I was really impressed with this book is it's almost impossible to write a novel about a subject that's been so beaten to death and so low class, I'm not saying it's pejorative, as like reality TV, and you did it. So I'm very curious. You got an MFA.
Yeah.
So I've always thought having an MFA was a waste of time. I guess I was wrong. What were some of the biggest things an MFA program teaches you?
Yeah. I also, like, I resisted getting an MFA for so long because I also was like, you know, if I just need to write, I'll go and write. And then I did that, and I wrote a really bad book. And so I was like, you know what, I can do that.
And it's called Escape.
Yeah, exactly. Here it is. And so I thought I could do better. So I went and basically it was just the time and attention and almost just like the talking about it. You know, you sort of like just you keep experimenting and you're told what works and what doesn't work, what you're doing well. And the mentorship, you know, someone to identify like, this is what's successful about your writing and this is what's not working so well about your writing. I had, you know, a couple of wonderful mentors. One guy in particular, John Freeman, just said like, you know, this is where, you know, this is what's funny. Like, this is like kind of like, he's like, go for it. Just like take a swing, you know, be bigger, be funnier. And that kind of just like liberated me, because I felt like I was writing a book. Like I thought a book had to be written.
It's like how acting is like, oh, I'm acting. It's like, no, that's bad acting. Bad writing, when people use big words, like that's not how people talk.
Yeah. And like just liberating it to be like fun. And like, I wanted to write something fun that people would enjoy reading, rather than just like my book, you know, my serious book that will like get
So the MFA validated that. They actually, they encouraged you to kind of make it lower brow, not in a negative sense, but like you're not trying to write a Dostoevsky. So why it's going to fail if you try for that anyway?
I think so. I think there probably were more rigorous genre strictures back in the day, but I think now a lot of these programs, and certainly mine through NYU, really encouraged experimentation, you know, across a lot of different genres, and which was really fun and really exciting. I mean, you know, and yeah, again, like you just kind of learn like what you're good at, and you can lean into that.
So having a podcast, so Drag Race is notorious for having like the worst fans. And, like you laugh, but like
what makes them so bad? Because
the vitriol is like insane. And the worst case scenario is like, okay, two drag queens got in a fight, and so these are people who don't have a lot of money, who are, you know, like living paycheck to pay. They don't have jobs. And then they make some fight on some show, and they come home and it's thousands of messages telling them to end themselves, racist stuff, you're disgusting, blah, blah, blah. These are not people with big egos, really mentally fragile to begin with. And it's like really dark. Do you have to deal with some of that stuff hosting a Survivor podcast?
Honestly, no. I mean,
God,
for somehow, I mean, we actually have an amazing community, and that I think is a testament. So I do this podcast through this network called Rob Has a Podcast. So if you don't know about it, the Rob Sesternino, who, you know, was a sort of one of the great originators of Survivor Strategy, then went on to, it was just on the Traitors, as you mentioned, and then has been hosting this podcast, has really built up this incredibly supportive community. It's just like overwhelmingly positive, but not in like a toxic positivity way. Yeah. You know, it's just like people are like nice to each other, and like they respect each other, and they're like kind. I mean, I'm sure there are, you know, different factions that I'm not aware of, you know, within like the community, but like I truly have not seen it. Like there was, you know, we used to do, or we do these live shows. I haven't been to one for a while, but like we, you know, since I had kids, but we do these live shows, and, you know, bring the community together. Everyone gets together. And at some point I realized that like, I thought people were coming to see us do our podcast. Like that was the event. In fact, no, like people were coming to see each other, and our podcast was just kind of like the excuse for that to happen. Like the community had like become just like a nice little niche community.
I think it's very healthy. I
Yeah.
think people need that. And I think people need to leave their house and have friends. And it's something that's a positive thing to bond over because it's a frivolous thing. So
Well, I think that was kind of exactly it. Like there were all these people out there. I mean, now there's so many places to find people who are like fellow travelers in whatever your interest is. But like when Rob started this podcast, like there were all these people who had this like niche interest in Survivor, and they took the strategy really seriously. They took this like ridiculous reality show so seriously. And then suddenly there was this, tentpole community that was saying like welcome, like come join us. We're all interested in this insane, ridiculous thing. And like they found, fellow spirits. And like weirdly, like being interested in Survivor like also correlates to like other interests, strategy generally. I mean, reading like one of when I submitted my book, people like a lot of editors said like we're not gonna like the editors who passed said they didn't think that Survivor viewers would buy a book, which is not so kind. But like the podcast community has really turned out, and so it's been like really cool to
Guys, you've heard me talk about probiotics in the past, probably, maybe not. I had stomach issues all my life growing up. I thought this was just how I'm going to live until I met someone who had Crohn's disease. And he told me about probiotics, and I tried it, and I had immediate success. I could finally eat without discomfort. Quality of life is something that's really a big deal when it comes to gut issues. And the only sponsor of this show that I've ever sat down and done an interview with was from the company Just Thrive, because that's how much I believe in their product. If you've been having stomach issues, please give probiotics a try, because let me tell you about their product specifically. Just Thrive has 2 clinically proven gut superstars, their Just Thrive probiotic and their digestive bitters. So Just Thrive probiotic is the only probiotic clinically proven to arrive 100% alive in your gut for a difference you'll actually feel. And the digestive bitters pack 12 science-backed herbs in one tasteless capsule that jumpstarts your digestion and supports GLP-1 production so cravings don't control you. And it's not expensive at all. This is something that is priceless. Being able to go to restaurants, not worry about, if I order this, am I going to get an attack? Or if I go to the movies, do I have to be near a bathroom? There's so many kind of little workarounds you have to do when you have stomach issues, and relief and you're helping your gut biome get fixed is so simple and easy. And I talk about this as much as I can because it's been such a profound difference in my life. So you can take the Just Thrive Feel Better Challenge today. You get 20% off on your first Gut Essentials bundle. All you have to do is go to justthrivehealth.com/welcome, promo code welcome, get 20% off. For over a decade, Just Thrive has helped thousands of people take control of their health with science-backed solutions you can trust. So that's justthrivehealth.com/welcome, code welcome, 20% off on your first order. And thank you so much for such a great product, which I swear by. Let's get back to the show. So I have a question that's only tongue in cheek, but you're gonna see where I'm going with this, because I obliquely referenced you. I spoke at Scott Adams Memorial recently, and I mentioned how there's people in your life who you haven't talked to in a long time, but if you saw them, it would make your day. You have nothing positive to say about them, and you're one of those people. Like, we haven't talked in a few years, but I'm very happy to see you. I'm very excited we're gonna get dinner after this. And then I asked myself, wait a minute. Whenever I have a disproportionate emotional response, I always ask myself, where's this coming from? Especially when it's a negative one. Because a lot of times it's not about the thing. It's about like when I was a kid or with some other job. And I'm like, is this because I usually have that strong feeling about someone because I could be myself and feel seen and appreciated? Or is this your Survivor sociopathy? Where you have learned how to ingratiate yourself with people.
Yeah, I do think there's an element to it.
I'm only half kidding.
So with this specifically, yes,
I know
this is entirely sociopathy. I've never liked you, but
many such cases.
Yeah, exactly. I do think there's an element where you come off of these shows and you become like much more aggressively charming in a way that like. I kind of like when right after I was on the show, like sort of like I had to like put your like guard up, and whenever you would meet someone just off the show, you could feel them like aggressively trying to charm you.
Can you break that down? What's that like?
What is it like to have it happen to you, or to
like what are these techniques? Like what changed?
I think it's a really good question.
Because I'm sure it's subliminal on some level, because it becomes your life when you're on the island.
Right. You have to, like, you only like progress in the game because you are doing it. That's a really good question. I haven't honestly thought about it. I just like know that there's like this like energy, exuding of energy, I think that like people like respond to very well, that you kind of like need. I also think like just the very fact of I remember my first interview to a camera, so I was so awkward. I was like shy. I was, I didn't, really want to talk about myself. Like I was never, no one really asks you about the minutiae of your day and the way that you're getting asked about the minutiae of your day. But then by the end of the show, you're like, yeah, I ate all that rice. And like, suddenly you become bigger and more flamboyant. I mean, hopefully not cartoonishly so, but maybe cartoonishly so to a certain degree. And I think that's part of it. You become like just like a more of a caricature. You're more performing. And maybe honestly, more than it's Machiavellian, people respond to that? Like, do people respond to caricature more than they respond to someone who is being authentic? You know, because it's like easier to digest?
Yes. And I know this myself because spoiler, well, I don't know, whenever I meet someone who's a fan, I'm always super nice.
Yeah.
Because I've met people who I'm fans of, and when they're not super nice, it really is disappointing.
Yeah.
However, given who I am, if I'm mean, but in a tongue-in-cheek way, they love it.
Yeah.
Because it's like getting roasted by Michael Malice.
That's what I think Groucho Marx, he had to insult everybody all the time. He was like overwhelmed with the pressure of having to constantly insult people.
I'm really good at it.
It's not pressure for you.
I think I'm better at the Groucho, to be honest. But it's when you are kind of, because from their perspective, I'm putting on a show for them.
Right.
Like they're personally getting roasted. Like I can see how they would enjoy that. Because they also know it's not coming from a hateful place.
Yeah. Well, I think that is what it is. I think like that's part of it, right? Like you are like being the sort of like biggest version,
right.
So it's most essential version of yourself. But there probably also is like just an element of, you're probably right that there's this learned element of, a lot of eye contact. I mean, which is
okay.
A class, but you make great eye contact. So, I mean, are you manipulating me?
Well, I'm listening to you.
Yeah. I remember there was this story about Bill Clinton where like an interview was like, why am I so beguiled by Bill Clinton? You've heard, I mean, and like something about him, like it's just so magnetic. And then like Clinton, like he was drinking, a glass with Diet Coke and ice in it, and he like went to take a sip, and like the interviewer realized he was like still making eye contact through the bottom of the glass.
Holy
like he
shit.
never broke eye contact.
Okay.
Yeah. Like that was like, so much of his charm was just that like, focus and attention. I think that's probably what it is. It's like a level of like focus and attention on another person that you do get trained. It's like a training school for manipulators.
You're right. The other thing, I had a friend who was on Big Brother, and he talked about how when you're on these shows, you just become a better liar.
Yeah. Well, that's it. Like, again, like you're not used to lying to people's faces when, and then someone asks you something, you're like, I don't know. Yeah. When you have to like, are you voting me out? No, I'm not voting you out. You look away, you look at the feet, by the end, you're like, no, I would never vote you out. You're my best friend. How would I ever vote you out?
You're being crazy. You have to gaslight them too.
Yeah, true.
So not only you have to lie, you have to make them think they're crazy for thinking it.
And you have to come up with a whole other story, like on the spot, like, oh yeah, we're voting out Sally, Sally's a monster. We have to get rid of her. She's, killing morale. And you just like have to do it instantaneously. And yeah, I guess you're trained to be a liar, basically.
That's the other thing people at home don't realize, that maybe they do, maybe it's part of the canon now, but whenever on Survivor, someone has to be the scapegoat, and whoever's the victim is told, no, we're voting out with this other person. And I don't know if that always makes it to the screen, but they never think, oh, I don't know who I was voting for. They're like, oh, they feel safe because they know who else is going.
Yeah, they're in on the plan. Like,
right, that's like, the thing.
Yeah, they think they're pulling off a blindside, and when in fact they're the ones getting blindsided, which in some ways mitigates it. Are you really so innocent if you thought you were screwing over that other person?
So without naming names, is there like talk behind the scenes of who these contestants are, who are like big phonies and who are like good people?
That's so interesting. I mean, I do think now, I don't know, like it's so hard because like,
I'll give you one example. I know you don't.
Is it going to be Eric Stein again?
No, Russell Hantz.
Oh.
So Russell Hantz, for people who don't know, he was like one of the biggest liars ever in the show. They brought him back at least once, maybe twice.
Yeah.
And not through you,
twice,
from other people who were on the show, who are like, he would lie about things that he didn't need. So within the context, there's like acceptable lies and unacceptable, but he'd be like, oh, my wife has like the biggest accent and they met her and she talks fine. It's like, what utility did this serve other than you're just a crazy person?
Right. Lying for like no reason other than just lying. I actually think there's less of that now. And maybe it is because they cast people who are all super fans of the show. They're all interested in Survivor the game. Most of these people are sort of like well-adjusted corporate types, and they come out and then they, they're sort of, again, like they're the most intensified versions of themselves. They've been through, Survivor training school, but they are also, still basically nice people. Whereas back in the day, I do think they looked for more erratic people who were, maybe lied more fluidly. I mean, he was an extreme example. Like he lied about having been like, a firefighter during, 9/11, right? Or
Did
something crazy like that.
Holy crap.
It was some, maybe it wasn't 9/11, but it was some like crazy thing, or like a first responder in Sandy or something. I mean, it was some like, why are you, why are you telling this lie?
Well, that you would tell because it makes him look like a hero.
Right.
That makes sense to me.
Yeah. That's fair.
So can you describe to people as best you can? You and I have talked about this personally in the past, what it's like to be in these conditions where you have no food, no shelter, and like you're just not forgetting the game, just physically. How do you handle that?
Yeah,
the hunger.
Yeah, it's truly relentless. Of course, you are endlessly hungry. You're eating just a few spoonfuls. At least in my first season, we would eat like a few spoonfuls of rice a day. I lost 35 pounds. I'm not a huge guy to begin with. I was a skeleton when I stepped off the show. But weirdly, there reaches a point, at least back in the day, again, like around the midpoint, around day 18 or 19 of what was a 39-day season. Now the seasons are shortened to 26 days.
Oh, they are?
Yeah, that's like a post-COVID thing. They shorten the seasons. Well, listen, your reaction is much of the fandom. Much of the fandom's reaction.
Why?
Nobody likes the 26 days.
Well,
I think because they can. I think because they just at some point shortened it, like post-COVID. I think it was considered a precautionary measure or something. I have no idea.
I'm sorry, I haven't done it, but there's I would think physiologically, in every sense, there's a profound difference between 26 and 39.
Well, yeah. It's just that. Truly, like that extra 2 weeks was. Now I'm really getting into heated Survivor fan discourse here, because of course all of the OGs think that these 26 dayers, they don't even know what suffering
they don't though.
is.
They literally don't.
I do think that
again, I'm sure it gets exponentially worse. Am I wrong?
Yes. No, you're not wrong. It becomes much, much worse. Now they say they give them fewer supplies. They don't necessarily give them flint, which every tribe used to get on Survivor. That you don't automatically get flint, so you can lose that. That's got to be terrible to be out there without any fire at all. But yes, I do think the wearing aspect of that time. The other thing that they don't have is boredom, which was one of the biggest challenges of Survivor. Was we would have entire days where we would do nothing. And you're not hanging out because you literally have nothing. You don't have games. You don't have any books to read.
But you don't talk and bond that way?
You think you would bond, but it's you're kind of too tired and you're sick of these people. You've been living with them. Yeah, I don't want to you've run out of stories. I don't need to hear your stories again.
Right. Okay.
And just more you're tired, you're irritable, you're hungry, you don't really even have the energy to speak. And so you're just lying there for days on end, it would be. And that's that was one of the hardest aspects of the show. That no longer is the case. I've asked some of these new era contestants, what do you do during the downtime? And they're downtime. We're just constantly go. So I think that does make it easier. But yes, the 39 days, around day 18, your body at least my body kind of acclimated. So I felt I was hungry, but it didn't feel as acute. It wasn't as intense. I'd probably lost all the muscle mass I was going to lose. And I had just reached this equilibrium point where I was kind of okay. I felt okay in the elements. I felt, I didn't enjoy the starvation, but I felt okay with it. And that was neat. That was cool.
What percent of contestants don't like Jeff Probst?
I think every contestant loves Jeff Probst.
I can think of one example who does not.
Who's that?
I'm not going to name
Okay.
him.
Well, I feel like people, it's like Daddy Jeff. Everyone wants Jeff's approval. If they don't like him, it's because they're mad at him because he doesn't love them enough.
I've imagined being in that tribal council and just going off on him.
Yeah.
I think I don't like that shit-eating grin he has. It drives me crazy.
I feel like when you're out there,
it's different.
Because he's the one who's he'll ask you a question and you'll give an answer and he'll be no. And he'll go to the next person and you're oh my gosh, I've let down Dad. I've failed to give the good answer. And so next time he asks me that question, I really want to give the good answer.
Oh, wow. That's really the dynamics.
It's not that abrupt, but he'll go down the line and you'll know when you've nailed it. He'll ask the same question to multiple people and you'll know, he liked that one. You just you can read him because you've been there for a couple weeks.
What are the biggest things that you learned writing this book in terms of how production manufactures these shows?
I would say, again, I think it is through, of course, what you're referring to is editing. Can I take a second to think about the biggest things I've learned? That's an interesting question.
Because you said you interviewed a lot of producers.
Yeah.
Right?
The biggest things I would say that I learned, and this was so most of my interviewing was not about Survivor. I spoke
of course,
from other shows. Honestly, how sort of fly by the seat of their pants it is. How oftentimes these shows are, Survivor's a huge edifice, right? I think when people think of reality shows, they think of Survivor with its 300 crew members, they're separate Marine teams.
Is it literally 300?
It's probably up to that.
Holy
yeah,
crap,
it's
okay.
like, it's crazy. Like there's, it's a huge institution, right? There's like different teams that do like literally every different thing. There's like a logistics team. There's like a marine team. There's a team that just gets like the slow-mo shots,
Wow, okay.
So it's a real, it's a real industry in and of itself. They think of themselves as like the fifth sport or something. I don't know. I mean, the challenge calls itself the fifth sport, but the Survivor 2, I think it thinks of itself as a sport. But I would say like this, for a lot of these shows, just like how kind of ad hoc they are, I was in casting once for another show. They called me up. They wouldn't even tell me like where the show was. They couldn't tell me like what the challenges were, this was like post Survivor. And like, I don't even think they knew necessarily like the structure and format of the show that they were currently casting. The producers show up on set oftentimes having as raw an experience as the contestants in many ways. I think that was something that was really interesting to learn how, they're going into the wilderness and like, yes, they're getting food and yes, they have like more control over their fate, but they're like in a workplace environment that could be a toxic workplace. I mean, that's something I tried to evoke in the book.
Yeah, very much so.
They have coworkers, they have colleagues, they're in the jungle. They're excited to experience the jungle too. They're like, wow, I'm like going off into the jungle to do this cool thing. But they also, of course, have to work. And so that creates its own tensions. And of course, like a lot of it is just about the way that the story is told. I mean, one of the things that I guess I took away the most was, they really are like amazing storytellers. Like they are telling a 3-act, well-structured story using real people in like the most chaotic environment possible. Like that's really interesting and challenging.
You did something really smart with this book, and I was very impressed with. And I'm saying that because it's also complimenting me because I did the same thing, and I'll tell you exactly what it is. So when I was writing my book on North Korea, Dear Reader, and it was based on all the propaganda, things that they say, people were like, "Oh, you played it up." I go, "No. I toned it down as much as possible. I wanted to be like, no, this is what they actually say." And here's a great example of that. In Pyongyang, capital city of North Korea, they have something called the Tower of the Juche Idea. The Juche Idea being the great leader Kim Il Sung's ruling ideology, and it's an obelisk with a flame at the top, like the Statue of Liberty's torch. And according to their literature, this was dear leader Kim Jong-il's idea to make it the biggest obelisk in the world. And no one had ever thought of this before, right? So what's the backstory for that to have happened? So I have a meeting of all the top architects in Pyongyang, which certainly would have happened. They're going to put their top guys in this monument. And they're having a brainstorm. And Kim Jong-il comes in. And they go, "Here are our plans, dear leader. It's going to be the second tallest obelisk in the world." And he goes, "We should make it the tallest." They go, "We never thought of that before." But that would have to be the sequence of events if their claim that no one had thought of this before was true.
Right.
So when people think of ridiculous reality TV, it's not going to be, lesbian albinos in wheelchairs. It's going to be what you had in the book, which is a show about dogs who surf. It's going to be something so stupid that it's going to take you a day to think about, like, what's the dumbest show? There was a show I remember called Groomer Has It, where it's about dog groomers.
Yeah.
And one of the finalists, spoiler, was like, "I'm blah, 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 and everyone's going to know my name." They will not. There are no circumstances. Yeah. Although that Girl with Dogs YouTube channel is really popular, but I don't even know her name. But it's just like, what are you talking about? How did you come up with something so dumb but realistic?
Yeah. Well, surf dogs. So I just saw a picture on Facebook when I was that was kind of like basically what my thinking was, like, how do I create a show that's so stupid but could be real?
Right.
Because like I mean, this is not the show, of course, that the Escape is set on, but like it's like before Escape starts, they're in this producer is filming this very absurd show called Surf Dogs. And a lot of what I wanted, especially in the first section of the book, was capturing the full absurdity of just like the landscape of reality television. And I was thinking, like, what would be something so stupid that you couldn't believe it existed, and yet you could believe it existed? And I happened to see on Facebook a photograph, like a professional photograph of a surfing dog, like that was like high def, and like obviously this photographer like really took it seriously.
Yeah.
And like that to me is the heart of reality television, just as an absurdity that combined with like how seriously people take it.
And I think also if you typical Steven.
Yeah.
I think also if you it's just water. I think also if you had some of the shows that are real, it wouldn't seem realistic. If you had MILF Island or MILF Manor, which is a real show. You know about that, right?
No.
Wait, you're joking.
Wait, but that was like a 30 Rock show, right?
They made it a real show.
No.
Well, you're joking.
No, really?
I get to tell Stephen Fishbach about this.
That's
On 30 Rock, it was called MILF Island.
Because I know they had Virgin Island.
No, okay. So on 30 Rock, they had MILF Island.
Yeah.
They had a real show called MILF Manor,
Wow.
where it's a bunch of young dudes who like dating older women, right? They're all in the house together. But the twist was these were the sons and their moms.
Wait, no. That's so broken. That's so messed up.
The second season.
No.
The second season, it was the MILFs dating sons and their dads.
Wait, well, just give me the premise again, because so you go into this show, you know your mom is going to be there. No. But
I don't know how they cast it. Because you have to find young dudes who are open or prefer, I think they try to tweak it, are open to any older women, and older women who are into younger dudes.
But obviously, they're not meant to be dating their moms, but they're dating older women
moms
in the house.
Other moms.
And
everyone's a mom.
The sons are there.
The sons are the dating pool.
Right. Then, but you're also watching your mom be dated by, someone your age.
Yes.
Wow.
And then the second season, you're competing with your dad for the same women. And I say, bring on the apocalypse. No. But the thing is, if you have that in the book, it'd be an eye roll because it's ridiculous.
You wouldn't believe it. Yeah. I mean, and honestly, like what I wanted to do was capture like a realistic texture to what it's like to actually be on a reality show, because I do think that oftentimes in books about reality TV, and there have been some, it's just cartoonishly over the top.
Right. That's my point. Why you did well with this one.
Well, yeah, but I mean, and even like when I was workshopping it, in my MFA program, your question is like, people were like, it should be more over the top, no. Why isn't there an AI in here? It's like, why aren't they fighting to the death? Right. And I was like, that could be a cool book, but like, that's not my book. Like I wanted to tell something that I felt like I had unique insight into, which was like the real texture of these shows.
The real stuff's crazy. Like with North Korea, the real stuff's farcical enough already. You don't need to add any pepper to the mix.
It becomes like, then it just becomes like sort of too cartoonish almost.
That's right.
Yeah.
The book is called Escape. It is available now. I have my own signed copy. Stephen, we're running out of time. What has been your favorite part of this interview?
Oh gosh, just right now when you held up and said this book is called Escape. That was my favorite part, the plug.
You are welcome.
Hey, it's James Altucher. I've been an entrepreneur, investor, best-selling writer, stand-up comic, and whatever it is I'm interested in, I get obsessed. Yes, it's led to success, but it's also led to such heartbreaking failure. I have failed more times than I can count. I wish in my life I had had people to talk to. That's why I started the James Altucher Show and bring on some of the most brilliant minds in every area of life. People like Richard Branson, Sarah Blakely, Mark Cuban, Danica Patrick, Gary Kasparov. And I wanted to find out exactly how they've navigated the highs, the lows, and everything in between. No fluff, just raw stories and real advice. I've talked to 1,500 of the most amazing people on the planet. So if you want to learn from the best and skip the same old canned interviews, we're all about helping you find your next big idea, level up your thinking, and ultimately to choose yourself. So let's do this together. Subscribe now to The James Altucher Show.
At Pluto TV, we're celebrating Black History Month with our free curated collection of Black entertainment.
No ifs, ands, or buts about it.
Catch award-winning films like Dreamgirls, Monsters Ball, and Selma.
We must make a massive demonstration.
Iconic hits like School Days and Set It Off. Plus full seasons of shows like Tyler Perry's Sisters and Power.
I got you.
It's star-studded brilliant Black entertainment, and it's all free.
It's getting good.
This month and always on Pluto TV. Stream now, pay never.